Welcome to CinePro, where we bring your favorite movies back to life, with quick recaps, hidden details, and everything you missed. The next day, Dexter goes to see Rita as usual, but is surprised by the arrival of her mother, Gail, who bluntly tells him she feels he is a danger to her daughter and might turn out like Paul. Dexter is upset but doesn't respond to Gail and quietly leaves. After that, Dexter goes to work and enters the archives to look for his mother's case. When he opens the case file, he finds out that the people who killed his mother were three. One is dead, one is in prison, and the third is still free to this day. Since Dexter can't get to the dead or the imprisoned one, he decides to take revenge on the one who is still free. When Dexter listens to the case recordings, he discovers that his mother used to work with a gang and at the same time was informing on them to Harry, Dexter's adoptive father. So basically she was working as an informant for Harry. Dexter is shocked because he realizes his mother died because of her relationship with Harry. Surely the gang found out about her and decided to kill them, which is what made Harry feel guilty and led him to raise Dexter. All of this upsets and drives Dexter crazy. Later, Lila visits Dexter and asks what he did, so Dexter tells her that one of his mother's killers is still alive and that he plans to meet him. Lila gets excited and asks to go with him. Dexter isn't too happy about it but agrees so he won't upset her. Meanwhile, Frank is meeting with his team, informing them that the algae found on the sea bodies only appears in 3 ports, and asks them to monitor these ports. After the meeting, Deborah goes to tell Dexter everything that happened and about the surveillance plan. This terrifies Dexter because one of those ports is where he keeps his boat, and if anyone finds his boat there, they'll know he's the killer. Dexter feels like he's slowly falling apart and about to be exposed. To clear his mind, Dexter travels with Lila to the city where the killer is, and they check into a hotel. When Dexter arrives at the hotel, Rita calls him to ask why his attitude toward her has changed so much. Dexter tells her what happened with her mother, and that this made him distance himself from Rita to avoid unnecessary problems. Everything Dexter says makes Rita very angry, and she goes to confront her mother, telling her to leave them alone and stay out of their lives. Gail is upset but stays silent and doesn't object to what Rita says. Meanwhile, Dexter and Lila are still at the hotel. Dexter takes advantage of Lila being in the bathroom and sneaks out alone to meet the killer. Dexter goes to the bar owned by the man who killed his mother and waits until the bar is completely empty. After a while, the killer finally arrives, and Dexter sits with him and tells him he's the son of the woman he killed. Dexter then loses control and starts beating the killer until he gets him to talk. The killer tells Dexter that he and his mother were working in a gang, and that his mother betrayed them with a cop and started telling the cop everything happening in the gang. From what the killer says, Dexter understands that Harry loved his mother, and realizes that Harry wasn't just a nice cop who adopted him. He actually loved his mother before that, and is probably his real father because of an illicit affair. Dexter also confirms that his mother's death was actually caused by Harry, who made her work as an informant in the gang, and in the end she was brutally killed. All of this deeply affects Dexter. He keeps beating the killer, unable to control himself and intending to finish him off, but suddenly Lila calls at that moment and Dexter tells her he's okay because he's going back to his addiction. Of course, Dexter's intention with the word addiction here is the addiction to killing, which he would return to if he killed this man. Meanwhile, Lila thinks Dexter is talking about drug addiction and keeps begging and asking him not to do it. So Dexter actually agrees and doesn't kill the killer. After that, Dexter went to the hotel, and at that moment, you could say that Lila felt very comfortable with him. Consequently, she started telling him her life story and told him that she was once married to a drug dealer, but he was a disgusting person who didn't love her. When he hurt her and she felt she couldn't continue with him, she set his house on fire without knowing he was inside, as she was only trying to make him angry, not to kill him, but he died in the fire. At that moment, Dexter was very happy to find someone like him, feeling that Lila liked killing too. So Dexter asked her if she regretted what she did, and Lila quickly replied that she did not regret. This made Dexter feel that he could really trust Lila, and he was about to tell her the truth that he was a killer, but he felt he wasn't ready yet, so he stayed silent and didn't say anything. Then the two of them returned to their city, and the first thing Dexter did when he got back was go to Rita. The surprise was that Gail was there, treated him well and told him she wanted him to marry Rita. Of course, this was a joyful moment for Dexter, but the happiness didn't last when she said she would live with them. At that moment, Dexter got very annoyed because he realized that Gail didn't love Dexter and wanted to stay with them to watch him. All of this annoyed Dexter even more, so at night he went to the marina and started searching his boat to see if there was any blood or anything that could incriminate him. After Dexter's search, he found the boat clean, but the real problem was that there was a camera recording everything Dexter was doing there, and it's not known who those recordings will reach or what will happen next, but all of it was recorded. The next day, you see him going to work looking very exhausted because he didn't sleep at all that night, thinking about the recordings he heard about his mother and Harry. In general, when he arrives at the station, you see that it's very obvious how strangely tired he looks. By the way, Dokes takes advantage of the situation and goes to ask a strange question, saying, "Has your brother ever tried drugs or been an addict?" At that moment, Deborah was surprised by Dokes' words and told him that Dexter has never been near any of those things and insisted that Dexter could never be an addict because he doesn't go near that stuff at all. At that point, Dokes feels that Dexter is hiding something bigger and must have lied about the addiction to cover up something more serious. This brings back his suspicion, so we're back to square one, and Dokes decides again to investigate Dexter and uncover his secret. After that, Dexter goes out with Frank and they're heading on a mission where they meet a man named Jim. Jim tells them he was attacked by a strange person who claimed to be the serial killer who kills people he finds at sea. But the attack didn't continue, and Jim is still alive. When Dexter hears the story, he starts to suspect that someone is imitating him and trying to act like they are Dexter. Anyway, after that, Dexter goes to the crime scene to search the place and look for any evidence that could lead him to the person imitating him and stealing his identity. But unfortunately, the place is clean and there's no clear evidence. Later that night, Dexter goes with Lila to Rita's house, and they meet Rita and her mother. During this, Rita meets Lila and feels she's a calm and respectable girl, and doesn't say anything about her relationship with Dexter, and the evening passes normally. After they finish dinner, Dexter goes alone to the station, wanting to find a way to erase the recordings that show him at the marina checking on his boat. But the problem is that when Dexter arrives, he finds that the devices in the room are locked up well and there's no way he can get to them. So Dexter is forced to leave everything and go. After that, Dexter returns home with Rita. Then he finds a message on his phone from Lila. In the message, Lila says that she enjoyed their time together, especially the day they went to the place of the person who caused his mother's death. Of course, Rita hears this message, connects all the dots, and understands that Dexter is cheating on her with Lila. Rita's expression literally changes to anger, and she tells Dexter that their relationship is over and leaves him without saying another word. The next day at work, there's a big meeting at the station, and Frank tells everyone that the attacker is imitating the serial killer everyone is talking about. He also says that if things continue like this and no one catches this person, he'll have to hand the case over completely to the Fed. This is what scares Dexter the most, because he knows that if the feds get involved, he'll be very exposed and they might find out he's the serial killer. So Dexter decides to solve the problem himself by stopping the person imitating him. Then Angel brings a very important piece of information, saying that Jim was involved in an old incident where an elderly woman and her son Bruce were victims, and Bruce is probably the one who tried to take revenge on Jim. As soon as he hears that name, he orders everyone to look for Bruce and reach him at any cost. After that, Dexter returns to his office and finds Dokes listening to the old recordings that Dexter took from the archive. At that moment, Dexter is driven crazy by Dokes' actions, so he decides to go and complain to Maria. He actually goes to Maria, and she tells him there's no need for an official complaint and that she will handle Dokes herself and make him stop bothering Dexter with his suspicious action. Maria then asks Dexter to take a break for a few hours and stay at the station to relax his nerves. Dexter agrees with Maria, even though he doesn't want to leave the station at all right now. But in any case, he leaves to go to Lila. There for the first time, he tells her that he loves her. Strangely, after he leaves Lila, Rita calls him and asks to meet. In summary, Dexter returns to the station and finds out that Bruce has been arrested. But after the investigation, Frank can't pin anything on him, so he has to let him go. At that moment, Dexter doesn't waste any time and immediately sets off the fire alarm to clear out the station. After that, he goes to the room with the recordings and erases all the evidence that could have exposed him. Then Dexter goes to Bruce's house and waits there until he arrives. Without any introductions, Dexter ties Bruce up and asks him about the murders. Bruce thinks that the person in front of him is the serial killer he's been imitating, so he admits that he did kill the people. This is the moment Dexter was waiting for to make sure he really deserves to die. So after confirming his identity, Dexter calmly kills him. Then the police arrive and find Bruce's body. Frankie concludes that the real killer killed Bruce, so no one would imitate him again. This makes Frankie decide to keep the case to himself and not hand it over to the feds, which gives Dexter some relief. Afterwards, Dexter goes to Rita and confesses that he cheated on her. Upon hearing this, Rita breaks down and tells him that their relationship is over for good and asks him to leave her life completely. Dexter doesn't respond and silently leaves, But unexpectedly, Dexter is happy because he has finally left Rita and will go his own way with Lila. The first thing he does after leaving is go straight to Lila. The next morning, Dexter goes to work as usual, and before entering his office he meets Angel, who tells him that a city newspaper received a letter today from someone claiming to be the killer. This put the whole station to work on the letter, trying to find anything in it that could help them catch the killer. Dexter pretends to be interested in the matter and encourages Angel to keep working on it, but the surprise is that Angel doesn't know that Dexter himself wrote the letter and sent it to the newspaper to distract the police and get them off his back. And indeed, Dexter gets what he wants, as the whole police force gets busy with the letter, led by Frank, who gets very involved with it. But none of them find anything, which is exactly what Dexter wanted. In the midst of all this, Frank notices that the letter contains details only someone working inside the police would know, so he starts to suspect that the killer is one of them. At the same time, there's a new crime scene, and this time the victim is a little girl named Betsy. Her stepfather is at the house and is the only suspect in the crime, accused of killing Betsy. At this point, Dexter goes to examine the crime as usual, and uses the opportunity to divert suspicion from himself. He comes up with a plan to make Dokes waste time with someone who has nothing to do with the case. So he goes to examine Betsy's stepfather and discovers he's innocent, but tells Dokes that he is the killer. Dokes believes him and takes the stepfather to the station and interrogates him for a long time, but the stepfather doesn't say a word because he's truly not the killer. This makes the situation more and more confusing, and Dokes can't understand why Dexter said the stepfather was the killer, when he's not. The important thing is that Dexter prepares his report, stating that the stepfather is innocent, and leaves it on Dokes' desk, but Dokes doesn't note. Then Dexter goes to Maria and asks her why they are interrogating the stepfather when he's innocent. Maria is surprised and asks what he means. Dexter tells her he wrote a clear report on Dokes' desk, proving beyond a doubt that the stepfather is innocent, and that Dokes seems not to read reports at all and just works on his own with great negligence. As soon as Maria hears this from Dexter, she gets angry, goes to Dokes, stops the interrogation and asks him why he's interrogating an innocent man. Dokes is surprised and says that Dexter told him the man was guilty, but Maria understands that Dexter wrote in the report that he was innocent. Dokes realizes that he has lost in the game, and Dexter played him very well and managed to trick him and expose him well. By the way, this exposed you and all your secrets. Dexter's reaction was very strange, because without any explanation he hits Dokes and leaves. But Dokes gets angry and chases after Dexter and keeps hitting him in front of everyone at the station. Of course everyone was surprised and didn't understand, and Internal Affairs comes and stops what's happening and decides to suspend Dokes from work temporarily. This makes Dexter very happy because he got rid of Dokes, even if only temporarily. After that, we see that Dexter's relationship with Lila is progressing much faster, and they are going out together a lot and are happy to be getting closer. On the other hand, we see that Rita's mother is treating the kids in a harsh way, making them study all day as if she's taking revenge on them, not teaching them. This of course annoys the kids a lot, and even the mother. One time, Cody calls Dexter and asks him to come to the school with him because he's going to give a presentation and doesn't want his grandmother to come with him because he doesn't like her at all. Dexter, who loves Cody, agrees. But Gail takes the phone and hangs up as soon as she realizes it's Dexter on the line. After that, we see Dexter sitting with Lila, telling her that he's going to school with Cody today. Lila gets upset and feels like he could easily leave her and go back to Rita. Speaking of Rita, we see that she finds her mother punishing Cody for what he did, which makes Rita angry and she tells her mother to leave the house immediately. Gail agrees, sadly saying she won't bother them again, and leaves. The next day, Dexter goes with Rita and Cody to the school, attends the presentation, and they are all unnaturally happy. At this time, Lila is going crazy because Dexter isn't answering her, so she sets fire to the place where she lives, burning all the statues and things she loved. Then she calls Dexter, tells him there's been a fire, and surprises him at the house. Dexter gets worried, leaves Rita, and goes to Lila. When he arrives, he finds her pretending to be about to die. At this point, we understand that Lila has a major mental disorder and many psychological issues, to the extent that she burned down her whole house just so Dexter wouldn't leave her. We still don't know where her strange behavior will lead, but it's clear it won't end well. The next day, we see Dexter waking up in his house, and things seem calm today. But this calm doesn't last long because we see Lila still at his house. Lila is staying there until her house is fixed, and it feels like she's forcing herself into Dexter's life, as if she's become a part of it against his will. Deborah is also there, as usual, but it's clear she can't stand the situation at all. and gets angry when she finds Lila wearing her jacket. She can't stand Lila at all, so she leaves without saying a word. At this point, Dexter tries to understand from Lila when she plans to leave. Lila tells him she can't leave now or even soon because the insurance hasn't agreed to fix her house yet. Dexter is surprised, but as usual he doesn't comment and lets things go as they are. After that, Dexter suddenly finds an old toy in his bag that belonged to Cody, Rita's son. Dexter is surprised that the toy ended up with him, but decides to go give it to the boy. When he tries to tell Lila that he's going to Rita's, she gets upset and tries to stop him, telling him not to go to Rita because it's definitely a plan to get him back. But Dexter doesn't care and leaves without listening to her. We start to feel that Dexter is beginning to hate Lila and is starting to miss Rita again. After a while, we see Dexter at Rita's house, giving Cody the toy and spending some time with them, but the atmosphere isn't good at all. Rita talks to Dexter and tells him she doesn't want to see him again and leaves him standing there without any response. Dexter is surprised by Rita's drastic change and leaves. After that, Dexter returns to the station and finds the atmosphere tense, because Frank gathered the officers and told them he's starting to suspect that the killer they're looking for is among them. That's why a federal team is coming to review all the old cases. Of course, everyone gets upset, especially Deborah and the officers who feel that Frank is indirectly accusing all of them, but no one does anything, and everyone agrees with Frank in silence. A little later, Dexter arrives at the station and Angel and Masuka meet him. They tell him what happened and what Frank is planning to do. Dexter inside starts to worry because the circle of suspicion has become much smaller and is getting closer to him, but he tries to act normal so no one can discover or catch him. After that, Frank calls Dexter and tells him he wants to talk to him about the Rodrigo case, who was accused of murder and got off because of the blood report that Dexter himself made. Later, Rodrigo was killed by the serial killer Dexter, as we know. Frank suspects that the report was deliberately wrong and asks Dexter why he did that. Dexter quickly replies, explaining that it was just a mistake, not intentional. Then Frank gives the same case to Deborah, telling her to investigate it, and at the same time asks her to go to lunch with him. Deborah is happy and agrees, and there's some light chemistry between them, and we feel they're getting closer. After that, Dexter goes back to Lila and tries to find out why the insurance company suspects her of burning down her own house. He also tells her that he too suspects her because he noticed strange things at the house that make him think she really did set the fire. Of course, Lila denies it, but Dexter is suspicious and starts to feel unsafe with Lila and sees her as crazy, unlike Rita. Anyway, Dexter doesn't waste time and goes back to the station and gives Frank the Rodrigo file, which confirms to Frank that Dexter was the one who got Rodrigo acquitted. Of course, Dexter did that on purpose so he could kill Rodrigo himself, but Dexter doesn't tell Frank that now and pretends it was an innocent mistake and leaves. After that, Dexter starts feeling that everything is collapsing around him, so he decides to stay away from Lila completely because he feels she's contributing to his downfall more and more. But suddenly Lila calls and asks where he's going. Dexter lies and tells her he's going bowling with his colleagues at the station. So Lila asks to go with him, and he feels forced to agree so she doesn't suspect where he's really going. By the way, Dexter was actually on his way to commit a new crime at that time. Anyway, after not too long they actually go to the bowling alley, and there Dexter tries to act normal, pretending that everything is fine. After they finish and leave the bowling alley, suddenly a strange man appears and attacks Dexter with a knife. Dexter barely manages to escape, and the man runs away from the place. Of course, Lila is surprised and doesn't understand anything. After that, Dexter goes back with Lila and tells her that the man who just tried to kill him is the same man who killed his mother, whom Dexter had confronted before but refused to kill. At this point, Lila tries to comfort him, and Dexter feels temporary relief, but he decides to take revenge on that man. Indeed, he kidnaps him, ties him up, and kills him with a chainsaw, similar to the one his mother was killed with by that man and his accomplices a long time ago. After Dexter finishes, his curiosity leads him to open the man's wallet, where he finds a piece of paper with the name and address of the bowling alley where Dexter had been. Dexter realizes immediately, without much thought, that Lila is the one who reported him and gave the man the address, since nobody else knew about this except Lila, because Dexter had told her. This makes Dexter furious because Lila did exactly something like that, but everything will become clear later. At the same time, Rita returns home and discovers that the door is open, so she suspects someone broke into the apartment. She calls Dexter and tells him everything. At that moment, Dexter looks at his house keys and finds Rita's key missing, so he realizes that Lila is the one who stole it and definitely broke into Rita's place. Immediately, Dexter goes to Lila and asks her for the keys. She gives them to him. Terrified, Dexter tells her that he knows she went to Rita's, Lila admits that she suspected he was cheating on her there, so she decided to see for herself and stole the key. Dexter also finds out from her that she gave his address to the man who tried to kill him, so he would try to kill him. After Dexter survives, he feels he needs her more, and needs her comfort, so she will be able to get closer and closer to him. All of this makes Dexter lose his temper when he finds out it was all because of Lila, and he threatens her that if she goes near Rita or anyone else again, she will see a side of him she has never seen before. Lila is terrified and doesn't respond to Dexter. At the same time, we see Dokes meeting with Maria, and Maria apologizes for having to suspend him from work after all the problems he got into. She offers him a job in a security company, and Dokes agrees. By the way, Dokes, because of everything that happened and the way the feds looked at him because of his actions with Dexter, they decided to investigate him and suspend him from work. Currently, he has no money at all, so he has to take a job like this. Anyway, Dokes then goes to Frank, who brings up the subject of Rodrigo. Dokes is surprised and tells him that he wasn't the one who got Rodrigo off the hook. Frank explains that he wasn't the one who cleared Rodrigo, but Dexter did, and then Rodrigo was killed. At that moment, Dokes immediately realizes that Dexter is behind the whole thing, and is probably the serial killer and got Rodrigo out just to kill him himself, exactly as happened. Based on this suspicion, Dokes goes to Dexter's house and searches. Here comes the shock. Dokes finds the blood slide box that Dexter kept as samples from the people he killed before. Dokes is shocked and realizes his suspicions about Dexter were right all along and he wasn't crazy as everyone thought.